Welcome to the first episode of the He's Still Working on Me series. This is Brandon with Advent Cloud Outdoors. So if you didn't watch the introductory video, I would advise that you watch it. It's actually number one on the playlist, where I wrote a list about 10 months ago of the things that I wanted to become as a man that I needed God to help me with. Because I felt like I'd written a list to God of things that I wanted in a partner, I really felt I also needed to write things that I should become to deserve such a partner, because, well, it's only fair. So I'm reading from my journal here, something that I wrote 10 months ago, and the number one thing on the list, which is today's topic, is to be God's best friend. So 10 months ago, I wrote this down and I said I wanted to be God's best friend. And I said here when I wrote it, I said, I must constantly be in the presence of God and commune with Him so much that He becomes my best friend. Now, writing this 10 months ago, in the 10 months, how do I feel? Do I feel like I really achieved this? Do I feel like I have become God's best friend, or God has become my best friend? Well, if I am being honest, my faith journey within these past 10 months has had ups and downs. There are moments where I felt so close to God that I really felt like He was speaking to me. I felt Him close, I felt Him right next to me. And there are moments where I really felt like He wasn't close to me. And that's usually because I wandered far away from Him. But if I am being honest, I am closer to God than I was before I wrote the list. So in these 10 months, I've had ups and downs. Things haven't exactly gone according to plan or gone well, but I can appreciate the fact that I have grown spiritually and I feel much more closer to God, and I feel like His purpose for me is clear. Now, how did I achieve this? What I would say is constant communion with God. Praying 3 times a day is not enough. You have to be constantly in prayer and communication with God, and that is through His Word. For me, the biggest ways that God has spoken to me in my life, the most clear is 2. One was in a dream, which for me was like more of a vision. That only happened once, very scary. And then the second one was through His Word. So the one of a dream, that's a story for another day, but that's when I was really in a bad place, and God really turned my life around. I was really into the wrong things, and God really spoke to me and said, hey, if you don't change now, it's going to be too late for you, buddy. So, and then the second one was through His Word. I remember I was in a bus on my way somewhere, and things hadn't gone well. I had really deeply felt like I made a mistake, I had messed up, and I prayed to the Lord. I said, Lord, please forgive me. And as I prayed to Him and I said, Lord, please forgive me, I was reading the book Patriarchs and Prophets, and in that book, I was reading about how David had numbered Israel when he was not meant to number Israel, to number the men, to see how much of an army he had. And the angel of death had come and was smiting almost all the city. And just when it was about to get to the palace, it stopped, and David praised the Lord, and he went and offered on the altar a burnt offering, and fire came down from heaven. I still remember the feeling that I got reading that. It feels like just yesterday, because just after my prayer, that text stood out so much for me, because I felt like God was saying to me, I accept your confession and you are forgiven. Never have I ever had a text stand out to me like that. Of course, in other times it hasn't. That is one of the times where God has spoken to me personally. So I have grown spiritually. I'm still not where I want to be honest, because I always feel like it could be better. But I really have grown, and I feel like, yes, I do see progress. I do see God's love. God has done so many things to show me that He loves me, to show me that He wants to be friends with me. And there's nothing so good as to know that God is on your side and He's moving with you and He is in control of a situation. I remember I had another situation where I felt like I had drifted far away from God, and I felt like I had disappointed him, and I wasn't praying. So something happened where I had to make a decision and I had to go somewhere. This was somewhere new where I wouldn't know anyone, and I would be alone. And I remember feeling the feeling of utter fear and loneliness because I knew that I wouldn't be with God. Not because he wouldn't be with me, but I didn't have the assurance that he would be, because I didn't pray and I had been away from God for a few days, hiding from him, just sitting the whole day, just watching the telly and not praying or reading any scripture. And when it came time to make this decision, my biggest fear was going to this place not knowing if God is going to be with me. And there I just remembered Jacob when he was in the desert and he saw a ladder and angels descending up and down from heaven. And he said, if God will go with me and return with me back home and save me from my brother, then the Lord shall be my God. And I so resonated with that in that moment, because I felt like if God would go with me there, he would be my God, and I prayed that prayer, and I remember really feeling peaceful to say, I know that no matter what comes, God is with me. Now, my final point is, having God as your best friend doesn't mean that life will flow smoothly. But after feeling that feeling that you get when you don't know if God is with you when you're about to make a decision, now I actually know the privilege of having the peace of making the decision, it going wrong, but knowing that God is with you as well. So my advice would be, make God your best friend. Every decision you're about to make, tell it to God, speak to him, commune with him throughout the day. So many times I look like I'm speaking to myself, but I'm actually talking to God. Sometimes I laugh, I speak to him, and I share with him, and it feels like such a close relationship that nothing else can replace. So number one, be God's best friend. I still could do so much more. I disappoint him a lot all the time, more than I'd love to admit, but I do, unfortunately. But I know that he loves me, and as long as I've got breath in my lungs, and as long as my conscience is still strong, I will always confess and try as much as possible to be his best friend and to be like him through the strength of Jesus Christ. So thank you so much for watching this particular episode. I will catch you on the next one, where we discuss number 2 on the list, which is to be humble, humility. I've got quite some interesting stories for that. Still working on me to make me all I ought to be. It took him just a week to make the moon and stars, the sun and the earth and Jupiter and Mars. How loving and patient he must be, 'cause he's still working on me.